Straight ahead on CCX News, a Robbinsdale teen pregnancy prevention clinic faces federal funding cuts, what that could mean for the clinic's future. Plus, a highway project with a lot of interest will show you what the future could hold for Highway 252. And later,
when you're on the water racing, the whole world shuts down. That's what I love about it the most.
a local sailing club that's one of Plymouth's best-kept secrets. CCX News starts right now. Hello everyone, and thanks for joining us. Some big changes could be on the way for a local organization devoted to the prevention of teen pregnancy.
Robbinsdale's Annex Teen Clinic faces federal funding cuts. Delane Cleveland joins us now to explain the impact. Delane?
Mike and Alex, the Trump administration announced in late July that they were cutting more than $213 million in grant funding to teen pregnancy prevention programs across the country, favoring abstinence education over sexual health education and birth control. Robbinsdale's Annex Teen Clinic would be one of the organizations to feel the impact.
It surprised people because I think it was really seen as, it hadn't happened before. I mean, people hadn't seen changes in federal contract terms.
The Annex Teen Clinic receives $350,000 a year from Hennepin County through a 5-year federal grant. That money funds evidence-based sex education at schools in Brooklyn Center, Plymouth, Robbinsdale, and New Hope, among others. Over the past 10 years, officials from the Annex Teen Clinic say they've seen a 60% decline in teen birth rates across Hennepin County. But those programs are now in jeopardy. Staff members say it's a consequence of sex education being a polarizing and politicized issue.
It's something that makes a lot of people uncomfortable, and so we're still kind of battling misinformation that talking about this encourages young people to have sex. It doesn't. Research shows that, young people say that. Then learning this information just helps them make better, safer choices about their sexual health.
The spokesman for the Department of Health and Human Services said the program was cut short because there is little evidence the programs have had a positive impact. Funding for the grant will run out next summer unless Congress votes to restore funding. Hennepin County Commissioner Mike Opat said he'll urge the county to help fill the gap if the appeal fails. Mike?
Right, thank you. A crash Wednesday evening on Highway 169 in New Hope has resulted in the death of a 22-year-old woman. MnDOT photos show the debris all over the northbound lanes and the backups caused by the crash that involved a total of 6 vehicles. The State Patrol says a semi-trailer truck rammed into the back of a Chevy Cruze, killing 22-year-old Catherine Berkey from Now-Then, Minnesota. The collision set off several other chain reaction crashes, which included the semi rear-ending a second vehicle. None of the others involved had life-threatening injuries. It took more than 5 hours for the highway to reopen. City officials expect to hear a lot of opinions on how to convert 3 miles of Highway 252 into a freeway.
In Brooklyn Park on Wednesday night, a large crowd showed up to see 6 possible alternatives. People who live along the busy highway are concerned because a freeway would impact roads that lead to 252. Some access points could become interchanges or be closed. By 2030, projections say more than 70,000 vehicles a day will use 252. And 2 of the intersections are already among the top 10 most dangerous in the state.
We've verified the congestion problems out there. We looked at the recent crash history out there, and as everybody knows, they're problems. We've also then developed some access concepts, and we're sharing them with the public tonight and asking the public for feedback.
This is part of a study funded by Hennepin County. Officials point out there is no money allocated yet for construction, so that is likely still years away.
About 60 people will ride through the West Metro Sunday morning to remember fallen police officers. One rider is a Plymouth officer whose father was killed in the line of duty as a cop in Eagan in 1993.
I have a picture of my dad right on my handlebars, and then when I do the memorial rides, I have his actual badge on a bag that's, on the middle of my bike that I always look down and see. So when it gets tough to climb up that one big hill or whatever, it's just you look down there and say, okay, let's push me through it.
These are pictures from last year's Ride to Remember. The ride is organized by Team Minnesota of Law Enforcement United. And for the first time, the 35-mile trek will start in Plymouth as it makes its way to the Peace Officer Memorial in St. Paul. Stops along the way will honor officers who were killed in Wayzata and Robbinsdale in the 1980s.
No matter if it was 3 years ago, 200 years ago, whatever, we will always do what we can to remember those officers that paid that sacrifice.
Anyone over the age of 18 can join the ride, and you can register Sunday morning. They'll be leaving the Plymouth Fire Station at 3300 Dunkirk Lane at 8 a.m. and then a bus will take you back to Plymouth.
Students at Robbinsdale Middle School spent part of the day in different surroundings. Because of a power outage at the middle school, students were bused to New Hope Church this morning to finish the school day. The outage affected part of the building and XL Energy was called in. The kids ate lunch and then modified instruction continued at the church. Students were sent home on buses at the usual dismissal time. The outage was caused by an issue with an underground wire connecting the school to a nearby power line. It was fixed and it will be school as normal on Friday.
Well, for the first time in nearly 2 months, Festival Foods in Brooklyn Park is back in business. The grocery store had to close in mid-July because of a fire, but after weeks of cleanup and repair, Festival has a fresh start with new lighting and flooring and is restocked with more than 30,000 items.
That's the silver lining for sure. We've seen that we've got everything fresh from the produce to the stuff on the shelf and the frozen foods, and everything in here is brand new, and we're really pleased with how things have turned out. So,
Festival has been in business for 20 years and has some very loyal shoppers. Many of them flocked back to the store today, and some couldn't wait for the doors to open.
It's a miracle. I have missed this so much. I come here every day, just because even when I don't need anything, I come here just to see what they have as far as specials. I mean, I absolutely love the place. I'm so glad you guys are open.
While the store was closed, all the employees still received their paychecks. Well, still ahead, yes, it feels more like fall, but up next, a few good reasons why you don't want to give up on your garden just yet.
Plus, the Osseo Volleyball team has a lot of new faces this season, but the Orioles are looking to stay strong. That's coming up in sports.
But first, Northern California weather on Friday, 70s with a fresh breeze.
Fall is just around the corner, but that doesn't mean you have to give up on having big, pretty blooms in your yard.
Nope. Reporter Sonia Goins goes in the garden to show us how you can still have an amazing garden.
The skies are cloudy and the air is chilly, but you don't have to put your garden to bed, at least not yet. Fall flowers can be pretty spectacular with sunflowers, zinnias, mums, and rudbeckia.
Now is a great time to plant, and there's so many pretty fall colors.
Lyons garden guru Donna Italian says you can have an amazing autumn garden by putting plants in pots.
All these things that are in these pots are all annuals, which means you plant them every year. But the joy of those is you have such wonderful colors in there.
She says the do-it-yourself decorative containers are pretty simple to make.
There's mums that you can put in there. We have the grasses here. There's celosia.
Adding flowering kale will not only bring a lot of color, but it will last long, even when the temperatures drop.
That's a wonderful one. They have different colors that they come in, but as the fall changes, it tends to get even brighter and prettier as it turns, and those will actually last into the fall.
And if you're not into getting your hands dirty, you can skip the soil and just set the pots directly into a big container.
You can switch out one pot and put another one in there. Some of them aren't going to look as well. Down the line, you could put maybe your gourds, your pumpkins, things like that in there.
Lastly, watering is key if you want your fall flowers to last.
You're not going to need as much water for the fall colors, the fall ones. The kale doesn't need as much. Your zinnias is a bigger leaf, and so that's going to need more watering, probably at least if it's going to be in the 70s, you're going to want to water them every day.
In Maple Grove, Sonia Goins, CCX News.
You might also save some money by planting this time of year. That's because many retailers are marking down plant prices on annuals. So they say now's the time to get your mums and zinnias in. You might think it's too late. It's not
too late.
Not too late. Well, later in the show, we'll introduce you to a club that is one of Plymouth's best-kept secrets.
But first, Terry Tuma has some tips for post-Labor Day fishing. John Jacobson is up next with sports.
I'm John Jacobson with sports. The Osseo Volleyball team has been consistently solid for several years. As Jay Wilcox reports, the Orioles are hoping to stay competitive with a mostly new team.
Osseo Volleyball fans will see a lot of new faces on the court this season. The Orioles return just 2 players who saw extensive varsity action, and right side hitter Kate Achenbach, a junior, and defensive specialist Taylor Kwan, a sophomore. But the rest of the players have grown up together and should blend well.
Yeah, we've all played with each other for a long time now, so it should be fun seeing how we play with each other and keep on going.
I do really like how our team is starting out. We lost a lot of good players last year, but we're not rebuilding, but we have a lot of people that can go different positions, so we'll mix it up and we'll see what happens.
It's a bunch of girls that have been in the program, so just the excitement that they have to be on varsity and to get to compete at this level has been really great to be around. So the energy in the gym has been really fun.
The Orioles lost 6 seniors, including one of the best players in program history, Tina Bowe. Replacing Bowe isn't easy, but it does mean the ball will be spread around more.
She is such a good player, and it's hard to replace that, but now that we have like a lot of different players, we can push to the outsides, the right sides, we can mix up the sets and to where we want to go.
The Orioles have started this season 1-1, beating Waconia at the Breakdown Side-Out Classic and losing to St. Michael Albertville. While many outsiders may expect a drop-off with the loss of last year's strong senior group, the Orioles aren't ready to concede anything. Jay Wilcox, CCX Sports.
After hosting Park Center Thursday night, the Orioles are at Armstrong on Tuesday. High school football teams have that first game of the season out of the way now as they prep for week 2 on Friday night. Here's where the local teams play. Park Center hosts Richfield in the game you can see live on CCX at 7 p.m. In other games, Maple Grove hosts Prior Lake. That's a matchup of ranked teams. Osseo is at home to take on White Bear Lake. 10 former Osseo athletes and coaches will be honored at halftime of that game on Hall of Fame night at Carlton Field. Also Friday, Champlin Park hosts Anoka in the annual Battle for the Paddle game. Armstrong is at Spring Lake Park. Ticino Grace is home to play Mounds View. Wayzata hosts Minnetonka. Hopkins is home against Waconia. Cooper is hosting St. Louis Park. Also Friday, Benilde St. Margaret's plays at Orono. Brooklyn Center plays St. Agnes at Seafoam Stadium in St. Paul. Breck is home to play Minneapolis South. Academy Force Co-op is at Providence Academy. And in 9-man football, West Lutheran on the road at Granada East Chain Truman. The lakes are a little more quiet now that we are past Labor Day, but there's still good fishing to be had out there. Harry Tuma talks about that in this week's final fishing tip of the season.
Fall fishing is taking place very, very soon. In fact, in some areas right now. And this is a prime opportunity not only to catch quality of fish, but also quantity. Practice catch and release. So the food source has changed, very abundant food sources. So the fish are going to take advantage of it. Many times we're going to see movements of shallower fish, for instance, bass. Crappies many times will stay deep, sometimes even dropping down deeper. Bluegills will, generally speaking, depending on the body of water that we're going to be fishing, they can be either deeper or a little bit shallower, and that's something we're going to have to use your electronics with. And walleyes, yes, generally speaking, they'll move up at some of the more shallow locations, but also we have caught them extremely deep in the fall pattern. So here again, use your electronics and work that specific body of water. I should also mention, and don't ever forget, every lake is different. I just had some questions asked about that, trying to define lakes in general. You can't do that today. There's too many variables, and if we understand one lake, we're going to be very, very productive. Sorry to say that this is the last program for the Open Water Series. We'll be right back here with CCX in the late fall, early winter, talking about ice fishing, and we are going to have a ton of new tips on how to increase your success. Have a great fall season, practice that catch and release, take a kid fishing, and we'll see you early winter.
And thanks to Terry for his work again this summer. And that's all for sports today. Mike and Alex, back to you.
All right, John, thank you. Up next, Lake Minnetonka isn't the only Hennepin County lake that's home to a sailing club.
We will introduce you to the Medicine Lake Sailing Club when we come back.
Well, there still is a few more weeks of summer left, and one Plymouth group plans to take full advantage of it.
The Medicine Lake Sailing Club sets sail every week. Reporter Shannon Slatton explains how they take full advantage of one of the largest lakes in Hennepin County.
On Wednesday nights, if the weather and wind is right, you'll find a dedicated group of sailors getting ready for an evening race on Medicine Lake.
Wednesday nights after work, everybody likes coming out. It's a great way to relax.
Mike Misk is the Commodore of the Medicine Lake Sailing Club.
When you're on the water racing, the whole world shuts down. That's what I love about it the most.
This sailing club has 50 members and attracts about 6 skippers and crew on a weekly race day. There are people who are seasoned competitors and others who are out here just for fun, like Mark Robin.
Today's conditions are awesome. Just a nice breeze, it's not going to be too difficult of a sail.
But they all agree, if the weather is just right, it's a good day to get out on the water.
Any condition of boat, you don't have to have a fancy boat to be in the club, just have a passion for sailing.
In today's race, members are all sailing the Flying Scot.
All right, jive ho.
Michael Hill is the ref on the water.
We keep boats in line.
He marks out the course and then waits.
First start is a dry run practice. After that start, then with the real start.
These sailboats don't line up like they would for a car race. Instead, skippers try to time it to cross the starting line at just the right time and place.
Well, that's a good start.
Mike Misk says if you ever want to catch a ride, there's only one question you need to ask.
I just go down the dock and just ask who needs meat on the rail. Basically weight, they want to have weight on the rail, right here, and then you probably won't go 3 boats before someone say, we'll take you.
These sailors hope for a few more good sailing days before fall.
It hurts so much to putting the boats away for the season.
And after that, they'll be counting down the days again until it's time to get back out on Medicine Lake.
Look forward to getting back on the waters in the springtime.
In Plymouth, Shannon Slatton, CCX News.
Each week, again, members race on Wednesday evenings and Sunday afternoons. The club tries to keep sailing all the way until the first week of October. It sounds like you might be able to catch a ride.
Wow, meet on the rail.
Yeah,
that's cool.
That is cool. Beautiful visuals there. That's all the news for us. Thanks so much for joining us.
And we'll see you back here again tomorrow, starting at 4.
Let's go ahead and throw in a jive.